read a bit of Yewande's bio. So Yewande Akinola is a chartered engineer and works as principal engineer at Langer Rock. Her expertise spans over 15 years including design and construction. In 2020, the beginning of this year, she was awarded an MBE in the Queen's 2020 New Year Honours List for service to engineering, innovation, and diversity in STEM. Last year, she was named one of the UK and Europe's top influential women in engineering and by the Financial Times. Welcome, Sissy.
Thank you. And thank you to you. And thank you to Justin for great introductions. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. A real pleasure. Thank you.
So, as Justin mentioned, it is Black History Month, and over the course of this month, we've celebrated inspirational figures across so many different fields. So, to start off, my first question would be, who are some of the people that inspire you?
So do you know what? I think the answer to this question every single time I get it is, first of all, my mom, right? Mom has to feature literally every single time. Your inspiration, your the person that pushes you. Yeah, I'll say definitely my mom. But in my industry, in terms of that big, massive presence, that person who is constantly saying, actually, Yewande, we need to change this. Yewande, we need to work harder. Yewande, this is what we need to target. I have to say somebody called Dr. Nike Folayon. She is the co-founder of the Association for BAME Engineers. She's a telecoms engineer. You have to check her out. She is completely into ensuring that, you, me, everybody, from a diverse background has equal opportunities, has the opportunity to become the best version of themselves. So Nikia, definitely.
Thank you. And, in previous interviews, you've described yourself as a female Black engineer. And you've been quite explicit in just showing that off and celebrating that. Do you feel like you kind of have to in order to encourage others, or do you feel actually this is such a key part of my identity that I can't leave it out?
You know what? It's a massive part of my identity. Because literally when you think of an engineer, right? Or when a lot of people think about an engineer, right? The image of a Black woman is not the first image in their heads. Even for me, for a very long time, for a very, very, very long time, I didn't see myself, visually as an engineer. The image that comes to a lot of people's minds is like somebody working away, in an office, in a tweed jacket. And yes, maybe that was the thing ages ago. But it's so important to have that visual image of a diverse group of people as being engineers. So it's very important for me to highlight that, because there are so many people as well, either in engineering education or architectural education, who are desperate for that image to look up to say, actually, you know what, one day I can be a Black female engineer and it can be normal, a thing. I can exist in my space. I can bring my full self to work. I don't feel like I have to conform into this image that, the world thinks an engineer is. So it's very liberating as well, because it just means I can just be me, just be me.
Brilliant. So I'm going to just talk a bit about your career in engineering, and just kick it off is, how did you get into it? What, motivated you, besides mum, to go into engineering, and more importantly, to stay in engineering?
So besides mom, because mom was like pretty much the person who came and said, I don't want you to become an architect. Well, actually, she didn't say she didn't want me to become an architect, but for a very long time, I wanted to become an architect. And, I used to make all these models as a child. I'd make all these models of buildings. And, at one point, I was literally like selling these models to kids at school, like my classmates in school. Like I'd be literally like, you know what? If you want to like give somebody a birthday present, like I've got this model, you can buy it for X naira, and literally for a very long time, I kind of imagined me creating like better living conditions for people around me. And then like my mom was like, but with engineering, you might be able to, like, yeah, fix my car, obviously, like sort out water supply systems, sort out like power supply systems. And then it was literally only when I found a degree at Warwick that had a massive bias towards developing countries that I kind of went, boom, light bulb moment. Like I can be an engineer and I can still create like these amazing spaces for people all over the world. So that was my first step. And I'll be honest with you, I was completely lost, for the first year. Really, really, it took me a while to start to really go from the arty, like mind frame, which was pretty much about creating stuff, to understanding the physics, the maths. I was never terrible at maths. I just kind of, did it to get along and just get into the next class, pass my exams. But really starting to visualize and understand the role that maths and physics play in engineering and in the process of transforming the art into an actual product was a bit of a challenge. And so I just kind of stuck with it. I started to see the applicability of what I was learning in lots of different countries, and I just thought, okay, I can work on a project. My third year project was in Ghana. When I graduated and I started to work as an engineer here in this country with a company called Arab, I could work on projects in this country. I could work on projects in places like Mozambique, and it was literally just the excitement of being able to create spaces in any part of the world that kept me in. I've worked in the UK, I've worked in the Far East, I've worked in the Middle East, and the fact that you're creating something that has an impact on people's lives, whether it's a super cool like hotel stroke water park, or it's a school, or it's an office building or a rail station, the fact that it has a direct impact on people's lives is possibly like like the one thing that has kept me interested.
Brilliant. So in working on all these projects, have you had a moment of I can't come and die? And, and what's been like the biggest, the best project you've worked on and the most challenging, where you were just like, do you know what? I am not God, and even God
Yes.
took a break.
So okay, yeah, I definitely have that one. Okay, so like okay, this is it, right? Like literally I'd been working for a few years, right? I was based I was based in Bristol. I'd worked in London, and I was like just desperate. Like I was like, you know what, I want to go and conquer the world now. I want to go out there and really, like put myself in like, a very, very uncomfortable situation and just lose myself. And actually I don't think I quite understood what I was, what I was needing to experience, or what I thought I needed to experience. Anyway, so I started to explore the opportunity of moving to China. And like this is me, I literally could not use chopsticks, right? I knew zero Mandarin, right? I literally, I had no clue. So I spoke to a few people, and like kind of pushed for it. I was like, I want to go to China. I want to go to China. I want to go. I want to like, be part of like the incredible stuff that's happening in China. Anyways, they're like, okay, you want to? You're sure? Right. Okay, go to China. And I rocked up in Shanghai. I couldn't use chopsticks, and I don't know what I was thinking, but like literally the dumbest thing ever. Like literally, how can you go to China and not use chopsticks and not know the word for spoons or forks? You know. So I moved there, rocked up there. I moved there like just before Chinese New Year, I think, or maybe it was like Christmas into Chinese New Year. So it was very, very quiet. Anyways, I literally like was not prepared at all, like language wise, culture wise, anything wise. But it took me a few months to kind of like settle in and like start to work on projects. But when I think back, it was literally the most, like exciting time of my career, like so far, because I started to work on huge projects. Now we're talking like 100-story buildings. Like I'd gone from like 2-story like schools here in the UK to like 100-story buildings, and trying to like navigate like regulations in China, trying to navigate like how you design in China and how you work with the different teams. Plus the design teams were based in New York and like the Middle East. And literally I would go to a meeting, I would fly to New York, go to a meeting in New York, like pretty much download what we're trying to like achieve in terms of our design, come back, arrive in Shanghai like at like 6 o'clock in the morning, go to my apartment, get a shower, and start work at 8 o'clock to then carry on. And there were times I was literally like, Yewande, what are you doing? Like literally, what on earth are you doing? But then it was the most rewarding. It really helped me grow as a person. It helped me find myself because literally when you're in a situation where, you just feel like the walls are just closing in on you, you find the strength to like stand up tall, to explore opportunities, to engage with people. And I had the most incredible time. I met amazing people. I picked up parts of the language. I found huge confidence. I had a great time. I made some like incredible friends as well. And I learned a lot. That's given me the confidence and the skills to pretty much work in any part of the world. Yeah, so that was it.
Brilliant. And I guess for a lot of us just listening to your story, what advice would you give to someone, firstly, who is potentially at that point in their career thinking, actually, I want to do something else? So this could be anyone. Like, what sort of would you give them? And secondly, what sort of advice would you give about how do you develop resilience and how do you sort of motivate yourself to keep going?
So the first thing is really to be kind to yourself, right? Um, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on us, either like self-imposed or imposed by society, imposed by Instagram and people's posts and things like that, So there's a lot of pressure. So you really have to kind of go to that quiet space in your head
Mm.
where you're clear on what your heart truly wants,
Mhm.
you know, where you're very clear on like the simplicity of what your heart truly wants as well, really understanding that there'd be times that it would be glamorous and be times that it wouldn't be so glamorous. Actually, it might be the opposite of that. And being comfortable with that. And actually, being in a place where you're just happy to just enjoy the ride, happy to just enjoy the ride, right? Whatever comes out of it, whatever has to go into it, you're just going to enjoy the ride and the process. And that for me is, the starting point, and it really should be the starting point always. Now, there are times when there's that idea that is literally just here all the time. You wake up in the middle of the night and that thing is saying, you know what, this is really what you want to be doing. And you can't you can't like push it away. You can't get rid of it because it's right there every single time you have conversations with people, it comes up, and you know in your deepest hearts of hearts that that's what you want to be doing. You want to be connecting those dots. I would say go for it, and go for it in tiny baby steps, right? Now, the thing is, and the thing I've definitely found is when you start to take tiny steps towards what it is you're extremely passionate about, you'll be shocked at how well things will come together. You'd literally be on the train having a conversation with a random person, and they would be literally the right person for you to engage with, to move something further. You'd be having a conversation with somebody, and like your perspective would completely, be aligned to theirs. So I would say start with those baby steps, because those baby steps are actually big, massive, indication, I don't know, indicators, that's the right word, of you being present and you being available to yourself and to your dreams and to your ambition. And when you take those steps, it's you pretty much saying, um, I'm here for this, you know, this is what I want to do. And I'm true to what it is that I want to do. And then, consistency is big. You can't do one thing one day and like forget about it for 4 months. You have to literally, you know, be consistent. Like when people are watching, when people aren't watching, in like your house, in a corner, in your living room, as you're like, getting your weekly exercise in, just thinking about it, doing it, writing it, and talking about it, engaging, even setting groups up or whatever it is, that consistency needs to be there. And then resilience. Resilience comes with the challenges that you then have to, overcome. And in those challenges, yes, there might be challenges, but there is always, always a solution. Most times they're bigger in our heads than they are in reality. And I've definitely found that, the minute you start to break it into bits, and the minute you start to kind of go, okay, I'll deal with this one here, you just realize how much easier it is to overcome. And then your resilience is just kind of gone from that to that.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we're just going to talk a bit about the construction sector. Obviously, it's a big part of the UK economy, and here at Bayes, sustainability, the net zero, construction. These are all some of the areas and sectors and objectives that we are working towards. So my first question would just be, what is the current state of the construction sector? And then secondly, what can we as government do to better understand this sector and work with them?
Do you know what? I like that question. And actually, sorry?
It's a big question, but
I know. How much time have you got? How much time have you got? Okay, cool. So let me break it down, right? Okay, cool. Like it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy year for everybody. And the construction industry, traditional industry, desperate to innovate and to rethink, has really had to like very quickly come up with methods and business model reviews to remain relevant and to remain functional to a certain extent. When COVID hit, and we kind of went, okay, right, we can't deploy the same number of people that would normally have on a construction site to site. How do we navigate rethinking our sites? How do we navigate rethinking, the way we earn work and the way we win projects? How do we navigate how we actually deliver products to site? So there was that initial, oh my gosh, everybody reform really quickly. And for some companies in the construction industry who were already exploring modern methods of construction, like Langerook, for example, where parts of the buildings were pretty much built in factories. We've got a few factories dotted around the country where we make parts of the building. So everything from your concrete slabs, your precast concrete, to complete bathrooms, to utility cupboards, to ventilation duct work and pipe work and electrical cabling, where we'd literally make them in factories and just slot them into site, into projects on site. All of that kind of then took center stage because COVID pushed us to. And actually, I think it's the same for, quite a number of industries who have had to rethink, especially with the adoption of technology, right? And the adoption of, very, very, very quick adoption of existing technologies. Now, the construction industry is now, in my view, in a place where it understands that it needs to become less traditional and a lot more modern in terms of the methods of construction, in terms of the adoption to technology. The question now is, how can we accelerate all those processes? And I think that's actually where government comes in, because there is huge opportunity for collaboration, especially in the innovation side, in really understanding, how we can adopt existing technologies for the construction industry. The thing as well is there are lots of really cool emerging industries like construction tech, which is brilliant, and it's really understanding how that connection can be better facilitated. And then I think that's where government comes in. The hymn sheet I sing off is pretty much, we need more doors open, that connect government and industry, more platforms, to ensure that we are conversing with the right people. The government is also pushing industry and pushing our potential clients to say, hey, I want you to, on this project and that project, ensure using as many modern methods of construction as possible, modern methods of sustainable construction as possible. Because sustainability is a big, massive part, right? Really understanding where products are coming from, understanding how people can better use their time on site, understanding how skills in this country, and skills development can be maintained as well, is a huge thing. For a very long time, we've been worried about skills shortage in this country. You just think, oh gosh, there are too many dying skills. There are too many missed opportunities, in terms of the continuity of certain skills, and also in terms of picking up new skills. And actually, the more programs we have engaging with young people, the better. There was something else I was going to say. I can't remember for the life of me now, but I will at some point remember. And obviously, when we start the diversity and inclusion conversation, I think this is where, government can play a huge, massive part in really pushing the construction industry to be accountable for its commitment to diversity and inclusion. Because I'm exhausted, I'm tired. Personally, I'm tired of, being the only black female in meetings, being the only female in meetings, you know, being the only black female in meetings, you know, and it's just not on, just not on.
Okay, so just before we go into sort of like the diverse inclusion segment of this conversation, can I just check with Justin if there's any questions coming in around construction, the construction sector?
All right, Temi. So I'm just looking now. So we've got a question about STEM, which we can raise later on, unless you want to raise that now. Lots of powerful, strong comments based on they're really loving how this is going, and I can read some of those later.
Okay.
There's a question on mortgage and insurance markets. Question, if that's okay. So, shall I read it out? Is everyone happy? Yeah, cool. So what is your view of residential self-builds? Is it desirable or not? Is it a long-held dream for many, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to find land, even though councils are supposed to record and provide suitable plots? So I'm assuming if you want to just focus on your view of residential self-builds, and then I can add to that afterwards.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great question because I'm an advocate for creativity in the built environment, right? And I feel that with self-build, right, you are pretty much opening up, you know, communities and the built environment to creativity, to design, to thinking that's inclusive, thinking that, you know, also kind of just pushes on the boundary of what we currently see. And actually, you know, when you think about other countries, you know, you think about, you know, some of the countries that I absolutely love, like in you know, right across the developing countries as well, there is that beautiful factor, right, that comes into the built environment that pretty much comes because people have the power and the, you know, the encouragement to come up with their own ideas, and create the spaces that they actually want to live in and be the best that they can potentially be. So I would, you know, if somebody asked me, I would definitely be an advocate for it. I know the challenges are there. You know, you've got, you know, big organizations who, you know, have existing relationships with council, who buy up land, who, you know, who would, you know, want to just replicate a certain type of structure in those spaces and things like that. And the challenges are there. But I think it's something that, you know, we need to push councils, we need to advocate for, we need to talk about, and really see, you know, if we can push in the boundaries of what currently is. Does that answer your question? So, sorry, if it hasn't.
No, so apologies. So the person didn't put their name in, so it may be that they've come from outside of the department, Yewande. So that's great. But I have found another one on construction. Tell me if that's okay for me to read it out.
That's fine.
So that is from Christine. Hi, Christine. I hope you're well. And the question is, do you think government needs to intervene with the mortgage and insurance market to reduce the cost to the buyers of domestic residencies of non-traditional construction? And happy to read that out again.
Yeah. So I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes, absolutely. Yes.
So do you think government needs to intervene with the mortgage and insurance markets to reduce the costs to the buyers of domestic residencies of non-traditional construction?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I totally agree, right? Because there's two parts to that question. The first part for me is there are a lot of young people who are saying, actually, we want to explore other methods of construction because we are passionate about sustainability, because we are passionate about exploring methods of construction that are completely different to what your typical house provider would give you, but play a massive role in ensuring that one day we know that our buildings are causing less harm to the environment than they currently are. So from that perspective, absolutely. Now, the world of mortgages and investments as well is very used to what it knows. It's very used to, it's very much designed for typical construction. And then when you bring something in that's different, it goes, oof, oof, oof. This is different. How do we, measure the quality, quantity, value of this, of this thing that's different? Anyway, so that needs to move alongside methods of construction for there to be at least the option, right? To say, okay, if you're moving into this group, this type of construction method, these are the support mechanisms that are there to help inform XYZ. Now, cost. Now, this is my personal opinion. I think, homes, residences cost way, 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 way too much. Like literally, I'm always looking at my house going, wait till this building that was built, 20 years ago, how is it costing me so much now? So literally, I think the process of becoming more efficient in the construction process really should drive down the cost of living and the cost of buying homes for people, as it should everywhere else in the world.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to ask one more question around construction is when sort of designing and thinking about sustainability, what are some of the things that you're like, actually, I want to try this in this building or I want to try that? And what are some of like the new technologies that you're looking forward to?
Cool. So I really like the idea of, art and buildings interacting, right? So literally when you go into a building, every single thing that keeps that building functioning is hidden, right? And only recently in offices, we've started to see like exposed soffit, right? Where you can kind of see like the pipe work and, like the duct work. But then I've always kind of thought, if it was possible to bring all the aspects, so how the water like goes from one place to another, how like the air flows from one place to another, like if we could bring that right to the forefront of the building itself so that people can understand how the building functions. Like, so say for example, like if you went and like used a tap, right, there'd be a really cool like display thing on the mirror in the bathroom that says, hey, all right, Tammy, you just used like 0.2 liters. Try and use less next time, or try and use more. Or have you washed your hands properly? You know what I mean? So that people can start to interact with the buildings much better. It can become part of their lives, and they can understand what their consumption is. They can be inspired by everything in the building as well. And that's my dream. That's my dream, just to be able to like literally take the building and turn it like from its inside out, using technology, using art, using lots of displays and things like that.
Really? And in saying that, please feel free to show off. What building of yours do you think actually, if you're in this place at this time, please go and visit?
Wait, okay, cool. So one that okay, actually, right, okay, cool. Let's start with London. So if you are anywhere around Tottenham Court Road Station, there is a really cool building called Central St. Giles. It's a Renzo piano building. It's got lots of different colors and like on different sides. It's next to, what's that super tall building? What's the name now? Oh gosh, it's left me. Anyways, it'll come back. But it's literally as you come out of Tottenham Court Station, like on your on your right, lots of different colors. There's some really cool restaurants. There's a Japanese one. There's a really cool Brazilian one. Central St. Giles. It's got Google in it. It's got a few other like advertising companies in it. And actually, if you watched what's this program? The one with Alan Sugar a few years ago. They did. Sorry. The Apprentice, yes, exactly. They always started off with like a view of it, like at the start of the program, they'll start off with a view of it. Go check it out. You know, it's mixed use, so it's got offices, it's got residences as well, it's got, you know, restaurants as well. So when you stand in the courtyard in the middle, just go Yewande, Yewande. And then if you're ever on holiday in China, and find yourself in an Atlantis, so not the Atlantis in Dubai, but the Atlantis in Sanya, which is the sister Atlantis actually, in Sanya in Hainan, like in southern China, and you are like, you know, on the lazy like river, or you're like, you know, enjoying like, I don't know, dolphins doing their thing and flapping their wings and whatever, you know, and you're eating good food. Yes, just think of me as well, because I put my heart, soul, everything into that project.
Thank you. And then we're just going to give a few minutes talking about D&I before we again open the floor for more questions. So over this period of COVID and lockdown, this summer you hosted a incredible internship program for people all over the world interested in taking part in STEM. Can you talk a bit more about that, and also just you know, where your passion for D&I has come from, and your hope for the future of D&I within construction, within engineering, and within STEM?
Thank you. I'm gonna get super emotional now. But like well, do you know what, the thing as well, right? You know, I don't think, you know, for a very, very long time I didn't really pick up on the importance of, you know, visibility, and the importance of role models, and the importance of having that, you know, diversity of thought. And like, you know, when my first couple of years as an engineer, I just kind of, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to carry on with my work, do my work. Like, learning was my primary focus. And as I started to you know, progress and, you know, kind of get promoted and things like that, I kind of then suddenly started to notice some things that didn't really sit very well with me. You know, like, people would be surprised at the fact that I was in meetings, or they go, "Oh gosh, you've done very well for yourself." And I kind of thought, why is this? And it was literally, you know, when that started to happen, that I wouldn't say that I, you know, became, you know, like an activist or anything, but I just understood that I had to make a conscious effort to stand for myself, stand for, you know, what I believed in, stand for, you know, people like me, and also be very, 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 very aware that I did not need to conform. Because for a very long time as well, I feel like I was spending so much time and energy trying to talk a certain way, trying to fit into conversations that, goodness me, like, were just so difficult to fit into. And then actually, you know, the minute I felt, okay, you know what, you're never going to be XYZ, you can only really be yourself. I just felt that liberating freedom to then find my voice, you know, share my voice, you know, enjoy the things I really enjoyed doing. And actually, I found myself contributing, even better to the groups I was part of. And is what keeps me going in terms of the diversity and inclusion conversations. So at the start of the summer, at the start of like what would have been like the summer holiday for students, I was getting a lot of messages from students who were pretty much saying, we are missing out on work experience because of COVID, because organizations are unable to open their doors to us. People said, oh, my work experience has been cancelled. People said my work experience, like I've applied to lots of different companies, and I could see these messages trickling in. And I literally started waking up in the middle of the night thinking, you know what? I have to do something about this, like even if it's just a day of, sharing my experience. And actually what then happened, I would be completely honest with you, I could never have imagined, because I then started to have conversations with people I'd worked with, like literally over the course of my career. I went back to my first boss and I said, hey, David, would you be interested in, sharing some thoughts and some learning with some work experience students? And he said, yes. And then I asked people I'd worked with in the Far East. They said yes. I asked people I'd worked with in San Francisco. They said yes. I asked people I'd worked with in, across Africa, people I knew who were doing amazing things. They said yes, Yewande, we'll do it. We'll do it. And next thing I know, there's like 20 something people, experts in their fields, people who have designed incredible structures all over the world, willing to help. And then I said, okay, right. Now we've got, in my head, I was thinking 20 students potentially, but then I thought to myself, actually, 20 students in the UK, if I've got 20 something people who are happy to be part of this, right? Why don't I just open it up to the world? And then I thought, how am I going to do that? And then I called a friend in South Africa, Hema, and I said, Hema, you run you've run events, you've run training. How do I do this? And Hema said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I'll help you with like getting the application process together. Anyways, we launched the application process, and I received over 500 applications from all over the world. Unfortunately, we couldn't have all 500 people, so we live streamed for the 400, but we ended up with 100 students, and it was extremely magical. 100 students from about 27 different countries. And we had this intense, incredible week. There were engineering students, architecture students, technology students, from Chile, Hong Kong, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ireland, England, the US, you name it, all together coming up with incredible solutions for our world's development, learning from all these expert engineers. And we did it without any funding. We did it without any, because I literally had like 2 or 3 weeks to organize it. So I had a time off work, and for me, it was absolutely incredible. And seeing students who had never met each other. There was one student from Kaduna in Nigeria working in a team with students from, here, students from Greece, coming up with world solving incredible solutions. Just really made me think about the power of community, the power of taking what might be a small idea and just really, sending it out into the universe, and reaching out to people that you've worked with, your people in your network, and also the power of network. And so I'm so excited because, I'm convinced that it has to happen again next year, and it has to happen on a much bigger platform. The students found it extremely, beneficial. Like I've been getting messages from people going, what, that was the most incredible 1 week of like my entire student time. Thank you so much. And I'm just hoping that, I can carry on working with the students. Some of them I'm working with them, like the students in India, for example. I was able to find an incredible person to continue to mentor them, to offer them opportunities around how they how they build their own startups, and how they tap into funding that the government has put aside for startups. Anyways, yeah, I'll stop there. But yes, I'm just so excited to see it carry on. Yeah, but just absolutely magical, amazing.
And very quickly, if I can ask, this is quite a heavy question: is what do you want your legacy to be? You can answer that now, or we can take some more questions.
Well, I just want to do good work. I'm inspired a lot by my dad. My dad passed on many years ago, and people still come up to me and say, your dad was a good man. He helped build XYZ. He helped do this. And I literally, I just want my legacy to be, me fulfilling my purpose, whether it's through engineering, to be able to bring, tangible impact, whether it's through education, whether it's through projects, whether it's through buildings. That's it. Nothing more.
So to open up the floor for some, I think it might have to be some very quick questions, quick answers.
Sorry, I've gone on for too long.
So we can get through as many as possible.
Okay.
I think there might be some hands up. I'm not sure if they're for questions or whether people forgot to put their hands down from the beginning. But yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Justin now.
Cool. So thanks, Temi, and thanks, Yewande. So I see that there's 5 hands up. Am I going to assume they're legacy hands? If not, I'm going to go to some of the questions in the box. So Nick had his hand up. Who else had his hand up? Giles, Anya. Are they legacy hands, people, or do you want to ask some questions? They're looking like legacy hands, I believe. Cool. Okay. Oh, no. I do believe there's a couple. Giles, did you have a question, sir?
This is my boss, by the way.
And my former boss. So I definitely have to make sure we get him to ask the question. Giles?
Hello, Justin and Temi. And Miami, it's fantastic to hear from you. Yeah, my wife and I have been listening to you over lunch. My wife works in a local primary school.
Oh, brilliant.
So she was talking to me. And a lot of actually your conversation took me back to my earlier career when I was an engineer in the electricity industry with London Electricity Board, as was.
Brilliant.
Remember, there were some female engineers who were recruited along with me. And we had great fun, actually. It was really good, practical sort of fun, maintaining the networks in London. And that's not just about keeping the lights on, of course, but major projects like tunnels, yes, buildings, the Millennium Dome. I don't know if you're you don't remember that, but
no, I do remember it.
Actually, I was the project manager for the electricity supply to the Millennium Dome, which included a tunnel from West Ham, and this is a big tunnel. I think it was 2.4 meters in diameter with a full TBM, London, or digging through London clay. That was an amazing project. And in fact, my wife, she and I went to the Millennium Dome when it opened, and we thought our son was going to be born in the dome, because she was pregnant at the time, and she had like a problem during the day that we were there. Had a medical centre, and we went along, but thankfully the baby wasn't to come then. It was to come a few weeks later. But that was that would have been another highlight from the Millennium Dome experience. But look, it's great to hear from you, and fantastic motivation for everyone to listen to your story, and I think we can all take a lot away from it. I think the challenge for each of us is to sort of personally take away some inspiration and motivation from this, and to have confidence in who we are and what we're doing, and to have confidence in the people around me. As we're just reflecting on the earlier part of my career, the one thing that was a problem for me was the network of people around me was more destructive than constructive. So for young people coming in to the industry at that time, I found it very, very difficult. Lack of support, lack of mentoring, lack of encouragement, and it was more like sort of displacing people was sort of an active thing, whatever their background or experience. Me having a strong Northern Ireland accent, that was something that differentiated me and a reason, if you like, to be targeted. And that's how I felt, which is one of the reasons why sadly I left the industry. But we have in the civil service, I think, is a great supportive network. I'm not saying it's all sorted. I think the fact that you're here talking to us demonstrates we need to do more. But I think the civil service, in my view, is in a really good place to take things forward to the next stage.
Absolutely.
Promoting and bringing on people of all backgrounds.
Absolutely.
And the whole sort of core point about
Giles, question.
question. Question. So
Charles, honestly, Charles,
with
you
me.
know you're my friend from day.
I think he has. I think he's put it there. He's like, I think the question has been actually internally directed to say, actually, what do we do more? So
I'm trying to add a bit of value, if you like, by reflecting and adding sort of, my perspective to it. But I think, I mean, what would my question be? I think it's about sort of, how do you see the civil service really? I mean, as an external person, and what do you think we need to do as a service to promote and facilitate more diversity? That's a broad question, and it's difficult perhaps if you're not on the inside, but just from your external impression, what more can we do as a service to promote diversity and inclusion?
Do you know what? Very simply, it's just stepping into the light, stepping into that role even more, and challenging organizations, challenging industries at every single point to say, guys, what are you doing? When teams come to meet you and have conversations with you, on certain topics, on certain trends, whatever it is, to say to them, guys, is this representative of the people that you serve? Is this, representative of the industry and the communities that you serve as well? So it's really just that bold, confident stance as well, to push the construction industry to improve.
Good. So I think it's about asking this really important diversity and inclusion question up front rather than it being an afterthought. That's really, really helpful. Thank you, Yewande. It's great to hear from you. It really is.
Thank you very much, and you as well, Giles. Thank you.
Congratulations on your end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Justin and Timmy.
No, thanks, Giles. And Yewande, you probably may need to send him a signed autograph. I definitely saw a bit of fan respect there. And just for anyone who's listening.
Sorry, 1 second, please, if you don't mind. Sorry, I've just got somebody.
That's fine. I can keep it going. So just to apologise.
He's at the door for another delivery.
So I just want to give a big shout out.
Sorry, I just got a delivery. 1 second. There we go.
No worries.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, we're back.
Yeah. Now this is funny because Temi did exactly the same during one of our other sessions. Now just going back to the audience, I want to give a bit of respect to Giles because Giles is someone for me who truly does demonstrate diversity and inclusion in his inclusive leadership. Temi can be a testimony to that, and I can as well. I've learned so much under this man, so even though we laugh and joke with Giles, it's because he gives us the experience, but he also as well gives the environment and the atmosphere to have those kind of situations. So I just really want to say personally for myself, I know he did take up a bit of space, but there's a reason why we allowed him to. So questions in the chat box. I saw a hand go up from another good friend of mine, David Joseph. Are you on the line?
Yeah, thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure.
Cool.
Thanks for having me as a friend of this. And it's great discussion. I like what I'm hearing. But Yewande, my daughter dropped out of university last year after her third year as a black woman doing civil engineering. And I pursued her to go as far as the third year. From day one, she faced all sorts of obstacles, very painful. But the question I'm asking is more looking at the landscape as regards a black woman in such an industry. And I'm basing it around Britain gave the world the first official group for female engineers, but still only 12% when I did my research of the UK engineering workforce are women. And the question is, why the women's engineering society still has its work cut out after over 100 years?
Yeah. No.
Over to you.
Do you know what, Dave? Honestly, like that is a very, 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 very true question. And I'm sorry to hear that your daughter didn't have a good experience, you know. And to be honest, you know, that's one of the reasons why I've taken up positions at universities. I sit on council at Warwick University. I'm a visiting professor at Westminster because of similar stories, you know, and for every one person we lose along, you know, the journey just because, you know, there's this opposition or there's this environment that's not been created to be right, you know, it just goes a long way in erasing all the work that people are doing to ensure that it's a more conducive space for people to just be the best that they can. And actually, you know, more work needs to be done. Is just the honest truth. You know, I'm part of I sit on the board of trustees at the Institution of Engineering and Technology. And over the last, you know, few years, I've seen a big, massive leap in the institution becoming more confident to have these conversations and to stand for equality, to stand for the different voices that we really should be having in the construction and design engineering space. The thing is, we need all hands on board because we're trying to change a mindset. And sometimes I don't know if it's a generational mindset. You know, I don't know if, you know, we just need like our current generation to then become, you know, the employers and the people who give jobs. But that mindset needs to absolutely change. You know what, all I can say as well is I would love to have a conversation with your daughter if at any point, you know, she feels like she wants to reach out to somebody, just to maybe perhaps also just shine a light on the aspects of, you know, civil engineering and engineering as an industry that are making the progress that, you know, the industry needs to see as a whole.
I welcome that, and I sure will. I've noted down your details.
Okay.
And definitely. Cheers, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. All the best to you and the family. So I know we've gone over, and I do apologize, Temi.
That's
I do
fine.
apologize, Yewande.
That's fine.
But could I just quickly drop 2 more questions and then I'll let the audience go? So one, there's been a few questions who have been asking about the program and where they could get details that you mentioned. So if you get a chance, if you could pass those on to Temi and then we can share them or we can drop them in the chat. Or if you want to say it vocally, it will be in the record, whatever's easiest.
Yes. So last year, I said this year, just because it was very quickly done, I put like an additional page on ouringeniousworld.com. So ouringeniousworld.com. So if you go to ouringeniousworld.com, there's like some stuff that I'm doing like with a group of amazing women to just get engineering content and present engineering content. But there's a page that says the big engineering work experience week. And what I'm going to do over the next few months is to just update it, to put, relevant information. So if they just kind of tag that, and they'll get like information come through. I might also like do a subscribe thing at some point, but I'm just thinking through what that needs to be.
Excellent. So I've just dropped it in the chat. Hopefully I've got the right one. It looks like it is. People are linking into that. But definitely, as you're saying, if there's anything that we can help raise awareness of that,
Absolutely.
definitely
Okay.
want to. I'm going to go to one more question, but someone said to definitely give you a shout out. Amy, I don't know if you remember Amy Richards. You actually worked with her on one of our, funny enough, on one of our department's campaigns.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Hi, Amy. How are you?
so she definitely
How are
said to
you
give
doing? And I think I also know Fadikemi as well because I saw her hand pop up. So Amy, Fadikemi, big massive shout out. I hope you guys are doing well.
Excellent. That's what we love, promoting family, promoting community. Because she did have to leave because she had another meeting. And then I'm going to ask one question, which I think will just tie this nicely, if that's okay. And that will actually, so there's 2, actually. I'm going to be cheeky. So there's one from a good friend of mine, Shelley. And that question is, what networks, bodies, or spaces would you recommend BAME women in STEM professions should join if they or at least find out about if they definitely want to get into the profession?
Absolutely.
And then same thing again, if there's any links that you could share with Temi, we can share those.
Okay.
And then the one I really like to end with, if that's okay, is what advice do you wish you had given to your younger self?
Okay, good. So the first question, I would say, check out the Institution of Engineering and Technology. Check out the Association for BAME Engineers. So that's AFBE. Check out Black Women in Construction. I think that is correct. BWIC. Check out Black professionals in construction. That's a good one as well. Find me on LinkedIn because I'm always reposting stuff that I see like amazing groups do. So if you follow me, I'm sure at some point you'd be like, oh my gosh, Yewande, please, can you just stop reposting and reposting? But at least it would highlight some of the groups that are doing some really cool stuff. Find me. There's some really cool people out there. You've got people like Anne-Marie Maffedon of STEMET. You've got, Nike Folanyo of AFBE. You've got some really cool people like Roma Agrawal. You've got some really, really cool people. Find us somehow and we'll always be sure to connect you to somebody who is maybe in your area, your field, possibly where you work as well. Advice to my younger self. I would say just be confident in being yourself, and I feel like I wasted so much time trying to conform and fit into a box. And actually, if I'd spent that time, really just exploring how I could, find me and explore me and, create something out of me. When I say create something, I think, that thing of starting off, early is always really good. Sometimes obviously you have to do the learning bit, but not using your age as a barrier, not using your age as oh gosh, I can't do this because I'm this young and I'm from here and there. Just we live in a world where, technology really allows us to like take our ideas to the forefront and for us to innovate. And it's really making the most of that here and now. And I would have started to invest earlier on. I would have started to put money aside earlier on, and actually really invest in, whatever, in shares and whatever. Yeah, so that's definitely what I would be saying to my younger self.
No, excellent. I wish I had said a couple of things as well. Could I just ask quickly, what would you have said to the younger Temi?
Oh, I'm just not too young. Thank you very much.
Listen.
Oh gosh. So I'm going to embarrass her a little bit now. So this kid here, because in my eyes, right? She's not a kid, but when she was young, she was the most, creative, and I'm sure she still is, I secretly wish she became an engineer. I think that's what it is, Temi. She would ask for pieces of paper to create stuff and draw and create all these images. And she was always very confident, actually, from a very young age. She would very, very, clearly say what she wanted, and just go for stuff as well. I remember her being extremely confident. Yeah. So I'm sure she's still that person. I'm sure she is, because I know her. And it's just, I'm so, if I have to say, extremely proud of her. You make me so proud. So keep up the good work, definitely.
Thank you.
So on that note, which I think for anyone who hasn't got a Friday feeling, definitely has to have a Friday feeling by now. As I said at the beginning of this, if this session didn't make someone smile, they're going through a really tough time. So I just personally want to thank Temi for being able to actually listen to me begging to help me bring something additional to this series of Black History Month events. And she probably has given us one of the better Friday feelings by inviting you, Yewande, to this session, because I think you've hit a number of different points that us as civil servants within BEIS need to understand how important it is that while we're doing the work, that we're also as well, when we have that opportunity, do the external outreach work. And as you're saying, how can we connect with that younger audience? How can we make the sectors that we're working on have connections with more diverse? And how we just bring in a really good positive vibe to our people at work, or while at work, because we just know that that human connection, everyone needs it now more than anything else. So if everyone who's still left, and thank you for still having the patience to rock with us, even though we've gone way over time, if you could just take yourselves off mute and please give a big round of applause to Tim and Yewande. Thank you. As I said, to the audience who take the time to register and to come and join us and to follow us and to support Fame, honestly, we wouldn't have been, and we wouldn't have done as much as we could if it wasn't for you. So please always remember that we are always here for you. Everyone, please have a great Friday afternoon. Take care of yourselves. There's possibly a part in the making, Temi, Yewande. So if you're interested, let a brother know.
Yeah.
Take care and have a lovely weekend.
Thanks, Justin. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Yewande.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Amy. Bye.
Oh, you remembered me.
Of course I do. Of course.
So lovely to see you again. Take care.
You as well.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Speak soon. Bye.
Every day on that one. No, excellent. Take care, everyone. Bye.